Our trip to Windsor starts at London Paddington Station. How can we get to Windsor? There's no direct train there. We should take a train to Slough and there change for Windsor. This is our train, departing at 12:12.
We are going to Windsor.
It took us about 40 minutes to get to Slough. And from here, we take another train to Windsor. Windsor Castle can already be seen through the window. Windsor is a nice town. Windsor Castle is the Queen's country residence, where the Queen likes to spend her weekends. At Windsor Station, we can see the train of Queen Victoria. There are many shops here: jewelers, boutiques, souvenirs.
Конечно, совершенно другая культура, другой уровень культуры. У нас другой, я не могу сказать, что он плохой, но он свой и другой. А здесь он вот абсолютно не похож. Видно это во всем.
Here we can take a bus tour. A monument to Queen Victoria stands on the square in front of the castle. So we are going on a guided bus tour around Windsor and Eton.
It was William the Conqueror who built the first castle here, a truly Norman castle. It was a wooden Motte and Bailey structure on the Motte, on the mound of chalk, the windy part of the River Thames. Now, don't move the bus, Keith, because it works if I stand completely still. Well, anyway, the first castle, as I say, was a simple wooden fort on a motte, on a mound. And it was built in 1070 by a man who was desperately trying to secure the River Thames as a supply route. Prince Albert had them torn down as a health hazard, and he had these round towers reconstructed so that they were safer. This is the Garter Tower we're passing, and the tower at the far end is the Curfew Tower, the one with the funny roof. Up until the Victorian times, it probably would have been quite slimy and dirty, and possibly even have the contents of the privies poured all over it, just to deter any would-be attackers. Yuck. Now the evidence is very clear to see. This is the year it was built, Queen Victoria's initials, and Prince Albert's initials. There is another very clear clue that this is a royal station, and that's actually that network of tall, wide red doors. They've been specially designed to take the household cavalry fully mounted. They'd simply fling open the doors and the cavalry would ride in and form a guard of honour for Queen Victoria. Flying from it. Today it is in fact the Union flag, which means Her Majesty the Queen is not here in Windsor today. It's quite possible that she'll come back to Windsor later on, in which case the Royal Standard will fly. Now, if you cast your eye along as far as you can to the far left corner, you'll see the Brunswick Tower, and you'll have looked at the outside of the state apartments of Windsor Castle. Just behind the Brunswick Tower there's a little tiny chapel. It's a private royal chapel, and it's not really much bigger than the second half of this bus. And it was in that tiny chapel on the 20th of November 1992 that the Great Fire of Windsor began. Henry VI became the king when he was just 9 months old. And so, for the first 18 years of his life, other people ruled on his behalf. But as soon as he was 18, he decided to set up a school at Eton to educate what he called 70 poor boys. Now these boys would be given free education, clothing and food, and later on a place at King's College, Cambridge, the university that he founded at the same time, just for them. Public school, the term, actually comes from the Middle Ages, when parents would choose to educate their first sons privately at home or publicly in the company of others. Either way, it was an expensive option, and Eton was one of those places where rich people would send their sons to be educated in the company of other people. It's a public school. Ahead of us we can see the Gothic perpendicular structure of the college chapel, which was designed by Henry VI, and yes, it does look just like King's College Chapel over in Cambridge. He designed that as well. They'll show you the oldest schoolroom still in use, and the chapel, and they have a lovely little museum as well. The boys who come here have a very distinctive school uniform. They call it Eton dress, and the local school children say they look like penguins, so it gives you an idea what they look like. They wear tailcoats, black and white pinstripe trousers, black waistcoats and white shirts with stiff collars. There are about 20 boys a year elected to POP, which is their prefect body, and they wear a similar uniform, but they have very brightly coloured waistcoats and scruffy looking trousers called sponge bag trousers. Hello, and they're the elite of the elite. They're the very top dogs. In fact, William Ewart Gladstone was a member of POP when he was here. The boys are very good at sport. In fact, they value sport greatly. And they have, for example, 110 different colours of sports sock that could be worn according to teams. And everything is stocked, all the sports clothing, what they call colours, are stocked in New and Lingwood, just here on the right. It's the last white building we'll pass before the church. Ahead of us we can see the Curfew Tower over at Windsor, so if you're trying to get your bearings, I can show you how close we are. And closer to us on the left is a black and white timbered building called the Cockpit Restaurant. It overhangs the road a little. It's where Charles II used to come cockfighting. This side of it, there's a Victorian post box, and there's something rather weird about the posting slot. Have a look at it. It's the oldest post box still in use. And there are some stocks on the roadside. The Cockpit Restaurant. Have you spotted what's weird about that post box? Ah, the young man back there has. It's a vertical slot, not horizontal. The bridge at the end of this road used to be a toll bridge. The toll master was much hated. He used to charge people to go over it and under it. In fact, he used to charge people more to take coffins across than to take live people across. You can see St George's Chapel on the far side. Ahead of us to the left, the Eton College boathouses. The first one is actually Eton Racing Boats, who make the boats used by the boys here. And they have 300 boats at any one time in their boathouses. And just as we turn on the left, you may notice in the window of the photographer's shop on the left, some pictures of boys from this year's Pop. Notice their wacky waistcoats, just here on the left.
Oh yes, yes. There you go.
There'll be another chance to see the tailcoat in the window of Tom Brown's. It's the reddish colour building we're just approaching, then it'll be on your right. Have another look. Now you'll notice how small the chapel is. Henry VI actually wanted it to be a cathedral. He wanted it to rival Canterbury. And in fact, his plan was that it should be 2 times this size. It's actually only the third of the size it was intended to be because Henry VI was deposed before he could finish it off. So you can see Datchet has remained more or less the same size and value of land, whereas Birmingham has increased and increased over the ages. Now we're about to cross using the Albert Bridge. Just to our right is the gateway that the Queen uses as a sort of private entrance through to the castle. She uses this so she doesn't have to come right round into the public eye in the centre of town. And this is Old Windsor, the original Windsor. Now it's hard to imagine these days, but it would, until Tudor times, have been deep in the heart of the Royal Forest of Windsor. The Forest of Windsor covered much of the southeast of England, and these days is shrunk back to that dark fringing of trees we can see ahead of us in the distance. It's called Windsor Great Park. It's about 4,800 acres of royal parkland. Right-hand side as we'll see the castle. Anyone's allowed to walk along this, so if you fancy a stroll later on, it's a good place to come. Now it's 3 miles from the castle gates up to the Copper Horse. And it was all laid out by Charles II, who missed French formal gardens that he'd known during his childhood in France in the English Civil War. The Queen uses the Long Walk quite a lot. It's a very good place to go royal spotting. And she often uses it as a shortcut through to Windsor Great Park, where the Queen Mother has a house. And just the other side of the park is Royal Ascot Racecourse. Just behind the mausoleum there is a very large and beautiful house, Frogmore House, where Queen Victoria's mother used to live. Modern brickwork, this is the Victoria Barracks, where the 1st Battalion, the Coldstream Guards, are stationed. They'll be here for 3 years, and then another Guards regiment will take over. These men have actually been on duty at Buckingham Palace recently, and we've quite often had other regiments from the Commonwealth and our local regiment on duty at the castle. Sometimes they wave if you wave. Yes, nice friendly guard today.
That's actually the soldiers.
And back to the right here, this is the entrance to the Long Walk, part of the original road to London. Ahead of us to the right, you'll see the parish church of St John the Baptist. It dates from the beginning of last century, but we've had a church on that site since the original castle in 1070. Ahead of us to the right you can see the pillared building, that's the Guildhall, and it was finished off by Sir Christopher Wren, who built St Paul's Cathedral. He had a little argument with the townspeople, who told him he needed pillars on the inside. In the end he agreed to put them in, but notice, he didn't make them touch the ceiling. That was his little joke. Next to the Guildhall is a crooked little house next to the shortest street in England. Now that crooked house is 200 years old and was put up in a hurry. And they forgot to season the wood, so as it dried out, the whole house twisted. And now we're going to draw up alongside Queen Victoria, who's wearing a tiny little crown. That crown was specially designed for her because she couldn't wear a heavy crown. She used to suffer from migraines.
She did.
Well, thank you very much for joining me on the tour. I hope you've enjoyed it and seen something you'd like to go and take a closer look at.
We are back at Windsor Castle.
Well, what was it before? 2 o'clock? That was great.
Heathrow Airport is not far from Windsor.
Растет по стене с умыслом или случайно. Ну, наверное, специально, потому что такое прям как растение. Ой, sorry. Заживание.
On the other bank of the Thames is the town of Eton, with its famous Eton College.
Фотографии выпускников.
Выпускников чего?
Итона, какого-то итонского, наверное, этого. У каждого молодого человека свое выражение лица.
We take a train back to Slough and London Paddington. Here we can enjoy the band playing.